This episode is with Larissa Andrianakos, and honestly, it's one of those convos that makes you rethink how to show up online. We get into everything from building confidence on LinkedIn to why some content just hits different and other stuff completely flops, and the psychology behind why people engage with the weirdest little things. Larissa is one of those people who doesn't overthink posting. She backs herself, puts stuff out there, and lets the internet do its thing, which sounds simple, but it's actually a bit of a superpower. We also talk about how brands should think about creativity versus data, why polished content is starting to lose, and how social has basically become the biggest opportunity engine we've ever had. This one feels very real, no fluff, just how it actually works. This episode is proudly brought to you by Sked Social, the platform helping brands and teams plan, collaborate, and actually stay on top of their social without losing their minds. Let's get into it. Larissa, thank you so much for joining us on the Scene podcast. We were just talking off air. I'm impressed by your LinkedIn profile, to be honest. Like, you've done a lot of cool shit.
Thank you. I take a lot of pride in posting on LinkedIn. I think a lot of people get scared, but I'm always like, that's your public domain to just show what cool stuff you do. So yeah, thank you.
I remember when I first jumped on LinkedIn, I was working in recruitment and I was like, what is this? You know, all these, like, every post was the same. And I was just like, okay, I'm going to have to use this a lot for my job. Yeah. How do I, like, understand this platform? When did you first start, like, your LinkedIn profile page?
You know what? It was as soon as I had, no, false, I lie. So basically during uni, I had an internship at a fashion startup, and I, at that point, was like, okay, I need to get myself on this thing called LinkedIn. So then from there, any little campaign or thought or mention that I had, I just posted. And at that point, I was like, if I get one, like, cool, I'm doing it for me. I don't really care. I know a lot of people say that LinkedIn is essentially, to some extent, oh, so narcissistic or just gloating about what you do. But at the end of the day, that's what gets you noticed. So yeah, I started from, like, right at the beginning.
What about, like, did you ever have any fear of posting or putting your thoughts and opinions out there? Or have you always been someone to just be like, fuck it, like, this is what I think, I'm throwing it out there?
I fear that I have no fear of social anxiety. I'm like, I just don't care. I've just always been that person where I'm like, at the end of the day, you do you, I'll do me. If you share a post that I post, let's say, that's engagement for me. So rock on.
I love that. And I think that's, like, a bit of a super skill. I think when you're building things and career driven and ambitious, the ability to put yourself out there, but also communicate well, like how you represent yourself kind of thing. Like, have you, since putting yourself out there on LinkedIn and stuff, have different opportunities come up and different ways of thinking and things like that?
Yeah, honestly, they have. And I think it's one of those things where, let's say when I was interviewing for a next role or whatever, a lot of the time the recruiters, and I'm sure maybe you at one point would have thought this too, it's like they would say, we saw more from your LinkedIn than we did your resume. So it just shows that obviously a one page is not going to give you enough to talk about all your creative ideas. So why not just put that on LinkedIn?
I love that. And what about for you personally? Like, how did you get into all this? You mentioned you're at a fashion startup. Like, what was the journey like for you into what you do now?
You know what's so funny? I thought about this the other day. I was like, what actually made me want to get into this? Like, when I was a kid, I saw this random Vox Pop with Zayn Malik, and the interviewer asked him, what did you want to be when you were younger? And he said a teacher. So I was like, what did I want to be? Yes, an actress, whatever. But I'm close. I'm nearly there. But I think what I wanted to be was just do something with my voice. My mum always said, do something with your voice. Yep, it's not singing. I'm horrible at that. So why not do it within the creative world? So then from there, I did communications at uni, all that, formal stuff. And then I just saw this opportunity at a startup happen. And then from there, we just delved into the agency world, which I absolutely love.
And is the thing that you love about agency world, like, it feels like a painter when they're working on like 10 different paintings, like having inspiration come from anywhere and being able to just like apply it to different projects and stuff?
Absolutely. I feel like it's one of those things where every day is a different day in the best possible way. So you could be working on the most, like, I don't know, like, oh God, like this might be boring, but then it's like, whoa, it's actually amazing. And it just shifts and it's got a lot of dynamic. And I really enjoy where essentially you're working on different clients, but you're also working with different people. So people obviously have unique brains and they can share a lot of information.
Oh, I love that. I was just going to ask you about that, like the personal versus the brand and stuff like that. How you think about the creative in that sense? Like, yeah, like how do you think about that when you're working with people versus like maybe a creative campaign brief for like, yeah, a brand that you're working with?
I think it's one of those things where, and I've noticed this where you do have to separate the people with the campaign or the brief or the client or the always on type content. You've got to separate it because at the end of the day, we're looking for a target audience, not you as the audience. So with that, I think it's more so just trying to step out of your own comfort zone, let's say, and say, okay, well, what would this person think? And then what would that person across the road think? So it's just keeping in mind and being aware about like what people could perceive your content to be.
Do you think it's like, I feel like there's a lot of psychology in what you do. It's like thinking of other people's perspectives, which would obviously help in other aspects of life and stuff as well. But it's like, how do people behave? What do they like engaging with? Like that must be fun to learn more about.
Absolutely. And you know what it is? And I've always thought this yet, like it was so funny. The other day we had this chat and we are just like, advertising is funny because you're essentially promoting something that not people necessarily need, but like they could be like, hey, yeah, you know what? I want that. And I think it's one of those things, you know, how you were saying how people get hooked in psychologically. For example, rage bait. So the other day, for my own content creation on the side, there was I got gifted a canvas, right? And like on purpose, when I put it up on the hooks, I knew it was crooked, right? Like I knew it was crooked. And I could have easily been like, oh, let me make it nice and straight. But it's one of those things where people will comment being like, oh, it really annoys me that it's crooked. But in a way, it's like, obviously, you try and make your content the best that it can possibly be. But it's little things like that. I've seen people where they have like put wrong buttons on and people get really annoyed. They go, oh, I'm really interested in the story, but your shirt's not done right. And it's just really interesting. Like hooks don't need to be on screen text. They don't need to be a verbal, hey guys, come with me. It can literally be like something so minuscule.
I love that. And it makes me think of like the hair on the screen, you know, some brands. And it's just like, what's that fucking thing on the screen?
And you're like, God, I'm the idiot. No.
What is it? Is it dark pattern or something like that? Is that what it's called? Or I think I remember researching this years ago.
Yeah, I think it's something along the lines of that.
And when brands want to play in that type of space, is it hard to come up with different ideas for that, or is that like the fun part?
I'd say it's definitely dependent on the brand's like tone of voice. So like, do they have a right to be that funny or that like, haha, like break the fourth wall? But do they, I know Britta, for example, and I loved the podcast with Cal, but I know Britta, for example, they essentially had such a witty like sense of humor where we could joke with our customers at the agency that I was working at for them. So yeah, I think it's very dependent on who you are as a brand. And also, do you have a community that you've built up to be able to do that, to know that you're going to get a response like, guys.
And working with brands that might not embrace that side, do you find that harder, or is that like a challenge, or do you mind like learning that, I suppose, like dealing with people who might be the opposite to how you naturally think about creative?
Yeah, and it's like what I was saying before, essentially you've got to separate, even myself, I have to separate what I think is funny or that's going to do well to what has done well within the brand. But I do think it's a bit of a push and pull situation where you go like, we'll try this time and we'll test and learn. And if it does well, then hey, great for the both of us. But if it doesn't, hands up, surrender, we'll do a different route. So I guess it's just really along those lines of like, do we do it? Do we not?
What about from your experience over the years? Like, have you seen more of the gut feel work or decisions and campaigns and stuff backed by like data?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a really good question. I feel like it's definitely one of those things where obviously within my day-to-day role, we would be reporting, right? So we'd be like, all right, top 3 best for the month, bottom 3. We would just know that like the bottom 3, why would we want to repeat that format if it didn't do well? So like the evidence is within the content of the shares, the likes, the reposts, whatever. If we're not getting that, then we're not getting that. So I think, it's definitely, yeah.
What about advice for people just starting out on their content journey? Is there things that you would advise them, or any tips or insights on things to think about and care about and build upon?
You know what it is? I think the one thing they should care about, dead set, is just themselves. Like, don't care about anything else because I always say this, like, at the end of the day, if you're getting a brand deal, if you're getting a free gift or an experience, that is sick. The people that are judging you, they're not. They're probably like, oh my God, like projecting. Like, I wish that I could, be confident enough to be able to do that. So I think my piece of advice would be one, like, don't let them get to you. And then two, don't stop. Like, I basically, obviously my content has shifted. Initially it was, and we'll probably get into this later, but initially it was more pharmaceutical, Greek community based with my target audience. And then I moved to London and I didn't work as a pharmacy dispense tech and I didn't have my grandmas there. So I had to pivot my content. So with that, I just think, just make sure that you're always creating content, one that is like, allows you to feel passionate about it. You actually want to do it and it's not artificial or whatever. And then two, just like do it anyways, push it out. Even if you get 0 likes, keep doing it because at the end of the day, that could be used for UGC instead of you building up a content creation platform.
And I think it's like the rise of interest media, yeah? Like if you really show off all your different parts of yourself, like it's going to hit the people who are interested in what you're talking about now on algorithm. So it's like you get rewarded for showing more parts of yourself now, I feel.
You do. And you know what? I have noticed, by the way, I think maybe this door will open. So if you see a man, don't get scared.
Nah, it's all good.
I think it's one of those things where, wait, sorry, what did you say again? Oh gosh. Oh no. Yeah. I think it's one of those things where when you're posting, oh God, oh my gosh, why am I having a mental fart?
I just did too. I was just like, I've asked the question, I've moved on now.
Okay. I think
That's all good.
sorry, that's right. What brands?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I think, let's say with UGC, whatever you can create that, let's say, didn't do well on your own platform and you've got 3,000 followers, 6,000, 50, 100, whatever, you can easily redistribute that into reaching out to brands and going, hey, this is an example of what I've done within your field of furniture, travel, whatever. Let me do this for you. Let me use it as an example from my portfolio and back myself up.
Yeah. And where are you seeing this? What are you seeing with the smart brands that you're working with? What are they thinking about in terms of content and where they see the big wins?
I think they see the big wins, and this is also like a personal preference for me. I think the big wins are within the shares and the saves, right? So like when you're also being very authentic to yourself and it's not like something that you'd see someone else do. Like, when you see on your feed, I'm sure everyone sees it, it's sort of like has evolved into people are doing the same thing and they're hopping on trends, which is absolutely fine, right? But I think when you have that little bit of uniqueness and maybe you're a bit funny or witty or a bit weird or whatever, that's essentially why people follow someone, right? Because they stick out as an outlier. So I think brands like that because then they see it in the content and they see it in the results of what I was saying of saves, likes, shares.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And they're the metrics, I think, like when you're thinking of creative, is that the first thing? Does it go through that lens straight away or is it more content based and then trying to flip it in that sense?
You know what? I always think to myself, would my dad laugh at this? Or would I share this? Like, would I want to share this? And will I receive people being like, oh my God, lol, like that's hilarious, right? Because you want to have scroll stopping content. You don't want people to be like, okay, like what did he get out of this? Like you want to give people either a laugh or maybe a fun fact that now they can share with a friend or, oh my God, hey, like that's sick. I want to add that to my bucket list. Like I think a CTA is cool, but you want to convert them into a viewer, to a customer of whatever you're promoting, right?
Yeah. And feel proud about like what you're putting out there too. Yeah. Is that a thing where it's like you were saying before, it's like, that's sick. Like I would share that. I almost don't care what other people think because I know it's sick, that's the kind of vibe. But what are some of the things that you think about when you're doing that scroll stopping content then, like for TikTok videos and posts and copy and stuff? Like how do you structure that up? Is there a template or is it kind of change every time?
You know what's funny? It's like in my mind, like let's say the other day I went for a hair spa. You should do it. It was really great.
I don't have any hair. I'll be
no.
yours. Yeah.
Don't worry about it. We'll wear a wig and then you'll see how you make it.
A beer spa. A beer spa.
But I think it's one of those things where in mind I'll be like, okay, I'm doing it, come with me, right? But then I'll be like, how can I make it me? by like whether it's me like making a joke or being funny with the hairstylist. I think you just need to make it shift a bit where it's like, well, why would someone want to stay throughout this whole video? So for example, this hairstyling salon that I went to, they had crystals, right? Like in the salon. I was like, that is USP. Like, you know, this is so different to what I've seen. So I incorporated that. I was like, lol, they've got crystals. Like, I've never seen this before. Let me mention it. So I think it's definitely, I'll think naturally about what I'm going to do. But then when I'm in that moment and I see something that's like, side note, write that down, like make note of it and actually engage with that.
So like processes around like that uniqueness, it's like figuring out what that is and how can we communicate that kind of in a sense of through like a social strategy point of view.
Yeah. And then I think to add on top of that, and maybe this is also a tip back to what we were saying to people wanting to start out, but initially I used to always do like, come with me, and like with my phone, I'd be like, and then we're doing this. But now I've changed it where I'm like, just film, get B-roll, clip it together, and then do the voiceover, because I feel like when you're doing a voiceover, yes, you're going to naturally talk about what was happening, but if something just doesn't add up or the client's like, hey, like that was risky or whatever, delete, restart, and then you can naturally make it go through. So I think, yeah, it's one of those things where you evolve your own process with what matters for you, but also how you deal with like, you know, the client or the brand.
I love that. And I feel like that makes the filming and recording so much easier when the pressure's off. Actually say this the right way, and you can actually look back at the video and give like probably a better take when you can do those voiceovers and
Exactly.
handy for clients if they want to change, like you said.
Exactly. Because there's been moments that say if you're on an event and like, you know, you're not going to get live feedback from the client. And I know that it's obviously a process of test and learn and, you know, learn from your mistakes. Like we'd be like, hey guys, welcome to blah, 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 blah. We send it. They go, oh, we can't word it like that. So you go, well, I can't go back in time. So you just save yourself a lot of like hassle, I'd say.
I love that. And what type of content do you love, like that when you see it pop up? Like, is it vox pop type of stuff? Is it the diary type of stuff? Like, what are you personally like interested in?
You know what I'm personally interested in? I love a good vox pop, right? So like, did you see Jake Shane and I think her name's Quen at the Vanity Fair? They were interviewing, but they were just crazy and chaotic. And a lot of people were commenting being like, bring back real journalists. Like I think there's a shift in what, at the end of the day, if you have a journalist that no one really knows, and like, shoot me if I'm going to say something wrong, if you have a journalist that not too many people know, they won't get the reach that you would get if you have Jake Shane or Liza Koshy or someone that is like a house name. So I think I've really enjoyed that content there because I'm seeing them in a different light to Jake on his normal podcast. So for me, it excites me. And I think it's also a bit inspirational. And then there's also the other content that is just so like stupidly funny. Like I just love like even like old Vines when they bring it up and they go, oh, this would have worked perfectly on Vine. I go, oh, rest in peace, Vine. So I think it skews and it changes every week, I say.
I love that. I think like even thinking about now, like what traditions come back, I feel like that whole like, was it Perez Hilton or whoever, he was the first like Hollywood reporter, and that version of person and character I feel like is coming out more now. Do you see like older things that we might have grown up with, or like I'm thinking like 2000s, and like what it feels like it's like fashion every 25 years it feels like it repeats. Like, is it just because we get to a certain age and then that's what we're kind of interested in?
I think it revolves around the niche, or let's say the escapism. I think a lot of people as we grow older, we sort of go, oh gosh, like we're adults and we have roles and responsibilities and life is really scary. Take me back to the more simpler times. And how can I do that? Through the outlet of social media. So I think with that, people, they seek a bit of like, it's nostalgic, it's connection, it's allowing me to feel a bit like, let me forget about my real life while I doom scroll in bed at 11 p.m. at night. And remember, for example, Hannah Montana doing her 20-year anniversary. Yes, I'm a 26-year-old woman, but I will definitely be on that. So I think it's definitely it's a form of escapism.
Yeah. And is obviously that's what you think about when you're thinking about socials and content. It's like we love movies because it gives us the hour and a half, 2 hours in the seat eating all the popcorn in the world, watching something where you just, it's like your phone's down, you're fully present. Like, yeah, it is interesting thinking about. I just feel like it's so hard too because like part of our role is to constantly be on and understand what's going on. And I personally love it and I'm so curious, but it's
Yeah.
like it gets to a point where it's like, fuck, I feel like my brain is just fried.
Honestly, I know I was having this chat with a friend and she was like, oh, like I read an hour before bed and I wake up and like I feel fresh as a daisy. I was like, I love that. And I remember at one point I did that and I go into phases when I'm reading a lot. I'll read like one book a week, whatever, and then I just don't because life gets so busy and then I just forget. But I think it definitely does feel like a 9 to 5 and then a 5 to 9 and like you can't stop, right? And even if like let's say you wanted to stop in some way or another, whether it's work or work outside of work, you still need to be in the know of like what's happening on social media. So yeah, I think it's just allowing yourself to have a bit of balance and understanding like when you prioritize that time.
And like comments, like you mentioned earlier, like lessons, I feel like is good for young people starting out is just like putting the boundaries up in place and understanding who you are and having good people around you. But like, because I feel like they can lift you up. People can be really, really great and change things. And then they can really, you can see the pits when you put yourself out there. Is there
Yeah.
ways where you've had to set those boundaries in place for when you're posting stuff where it's like, I just can't let this get to me, or like I need to put these things in place?
Yeah, you know what's funny? So I had a skin journey, right? So like I had really bad acne, whatever, but I was never ever like embarrassed of it or whatever. And I was very open to the journey, being like, guys, oh my God, I tried this new Nature skincare. I'm like, look, it's like, my scars are gone. I was very open to it. And a lot of comments. Obviously, you know how in the TikTok comment section, you'll always have your popular, positive, negative, folded comments, right? And back in the day, like in 2020, there was no such thing as like filtered comments. Like they didn't introduce even like filtering out words until a few years ago. And there'd be like horrible comments. Like I'd be so embarrassed to walk outside of house if I were you. Thank God. Look, I may have had shit skin, but I had thick skin. Like I just didn't care. I was like, I just like at the end of the day, you're a person behind a profile, but I do think everyone has their own limit to what can actually get to them. So for me personally, I've grown up with brothers as well. Like girl was humbled from like the womb. But I think it's one of those things where if you don't want that to get to you and you're insecure about it, which is so fair, I think it's like you need to set those boundaries where do the whole filtered comment section or delete the comments or don't look at the comments. Just make sure that you're putting up those boundaries to ensure that you can live a life like sleeping on a cold pillow and not worrying about what people think. But I do also think it's like a double-edged sword. The other half is, you know what? That's 10 comments to my video. Like that's engagement. You know what I mean? Like use it to your own advantage.
I love that. And when you think about your audience and community, and even for brands and stuff, are you thinking about feeding them what they want from the feedback or surprising them with something cool and different? Or does it change varied with
I
what
think
you're
I'm like half half, right? I saw someone post the other day. I think it was Alex Sell. She was like, "Hey guys, I've been MIA for a bit. I'm back. What do you want to see from me?" Right? But I think asking that question is a bit, I don't know. People follow you because of what you've been posting anyways. So like, why would you need to ask to understand which way you want to pivot? Like, it's already clearly been working for you, unless that's just her trying to gauge like demographically what her audience wants. But I think it's definitely one of those things where I know that and in my bio, and I think it's called alliteration. I don't know, but I do fashion, food, flights, furniture, right? So they're all the categories that I want to tap into, and I want to let brands know that that's what I do, right? Instead of having to scroll and go, what does she do? Lifestyle in general. I think it's just what I want. Like if a brand reaches out and I'm like, sick, I'll do it. If not, I'll be like, I'll pass. I don't need to do it. It's not like I depend on this financially or I depend on it to make sure that I'm fulfilling a life of fresh daisies and stuff. I think it's just more so what I want to do, I'll do. And if I see someone being like, oh my God, can you please like give me a tutorial of your eyeliner? I'll be like, yes, because I want to help you. But I think it's like you have layers on a cake. So you do what you want to do. If something's trending, jump on it if it's aligned with what you do anyways. And then if someone comments being like, oh, we want to see this, do it if you feel comfortable doing it.
Do you feel like you get a lot of good ideas from when people comment and share suggestions and stuff too, or is it a bit of a mix, like a diamond in the rough type of thing, where it's like that's actually really good or not really at all?
I don't know. I think personally, whenever I have a weird thought, I'll just be like, just post it. And I've noticed that, let's say, the curated content that I do for brands, right? Obviously, it's going to be a bit more polished because you have to align to the criteria and the brand guidelines. But when you do things that are sort of a bit out of your scope, I've noticed that it just gets more views and reach and everything like that. So, yeah, I think like I'll listen, I'll look, but I think it's more so like I just do. Like sometimes I'll post twice a day and it's just random shit. So yeah.
What do you think B2B businesses can do on social that like, you know, there's a lot that listen to this podcast, hopefully. So it's like, how should they think about socials that you're seeing where they're winning, you know, whether it's on TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn?
I think it's one of those things where it's like, so obviously B2B is very different to B2C. They're targeting other businesses. If and it obviously depends on the type of businesses. So like you could be like from one extreme to another, but I do think and I've done an audit like a few years ago. I did an audit where I was like, hey, well, look at the comments first and see who is actually commenting. Where do they come from? What world are they in? And if they're engaging with that, then clearly it's doing well. So why don't you not replicate it, but take inspiration from it? So I think it's like, yes, jump on trends, but obviously it's different from LinkedIn to Instagram to TikTok to Twitter to whichever platform you're thinking of. But you do have to have like a strategy in line where people can take you seriously as another brand and go, okay, yes, you are funny on social media, but you don't always need to be funny on social media. It's a platform so people can either get entertained or educated.
And I think there's some people who work in specific industries where if people saw them mucking around on social media, they'd be worried about the job that they're doing for them potentially. So it's like, you know, you need to think about those things. I think like I'm always come from the lens of, oh, it's fun and stuff. But it's like, well, for like a real estate agent, if you're working with buyers and sellers, it's like you need to be pretty onto it, like calls. And if they see you stuffing around and mucking around a lot, I think that you don't want that rep as well, you know?
But you know what, mate? You know what's interesting? You know what ruffles my feathers? So there's this guy on TikTok, and he's a really funny real estate agent, and he'll basically rate different suburbs in Sydney, different types of foundations of a house, e.g., is it red brick, is it timber, whatever. I don't know why my whole feed is like that at the moment as well, like rating suburbs. But anyways,
Yeah.
he's really funny, right? And I thought about it. I was like, he will definitely get the attention of Gen Z, millennial, but a boomer, like a baby boomer or and above, no way. They'd be like, he doesn't take his job seriously. But we're in an evolving world where at one point, like millennials are becoming parents now, and they're like, it's so all the taboo subjects that we used to be like, oh, don't talk about it. Now we do because we are literally a whole new generation with new mentalities and thought processes and ideologies and whatever. And it's different now. So we sort of look at it and go, they know what they're saying. They just have a bit of personality. So I think there's a shift, definitely.
And something different that's changed is obviously AI and the different resources and tools that are available now. Like growing up, it was very different. Like you just took someone's word for a lot of things and you sort of go off what you've been told. And now with the internet, and especially all these people growing up on the internet, it's like you can know anything in the blink of whatever. And, you know, who knows what's true and false, but I feel like there's a lot of information out there. So it's like the way we live and consume is so much different than what it was, you know, years ago.
Funny you say that. So we I'm very much like if I see a commercial and it's about like a dog, I cry. I'm like, oh my, I get really into it, right? I'm just a very emotional person like that. And it is funny though, because when you're on TikTok, right, you could for a whole minute, 60 seconds, you could scroll past, I'd say 15 videos, right? One could be like, oh my God, someone's surprised, they're no, like whatever. And then the other one could be like a prank and it's hilarious. And then it could be like, oh, like disgusting. And then, oh my, so you've already reached 4 different emotions within a whole minute. It's not normal for your brain to essentially be processing that information and for you to feel those emotions so quickly. So I think going back to like, you know, how I was saying, oh, it's a 9 to 5, 5 to 9, you do have to sort of like step back and go, I need to take a break because it is a lot to process, obviously. But I'm going on a tangent, but in saying that, it's one of those things where like people that go, oh, I can't do TikTok. It's too much. Like, I just hate seeing this. I'm like, well, click not interested. Like, you can form your algorithm to be what you want. I, during COVID, used to follow, it's called Happy Broadcast Channel, right? I'm not getting paid to say this. And it was really funny. Like, it was very much like, by the way, like, we've hit X amount within the amount of cows in a farm. I don't know, whatever. But they give out positive information, because there was a point at COVID where we were like, oh, this is crazy. Like, there's too much negativity in this world. My girlfriends and I in a chat would be like, girls, give us the positive of the week. Like, we literally had to put it in the chat to remind ourselves that like there's still good in this life. So I think it's definitely what you choose to consume your time in that affects you.
I love that. And my argument, like, social's a hard one, because I think like you can be inspired so easily as well. Like, as much as people talk about the negative and things like that, I feel like there's so much upside in like being able to see other people's worlds and perspectives. And it's like, you don't live inside this bubble much anymore. And then people, I feel like these days have probably got a bit more empathy, because they can see rather than, like reading a book is different to watching videos, I think, and just understanding how things work.
Yes. And so like there was this guy, I think this girl worked with an older man. I think it was in like a car sales garage or whatever. And she was saying, oh my God, he's got 2 jobs and he pays for his daughter that's like, got a cancer treatment and blah, 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 blah. Guys, please, like, I've got to GoFundMe my link. And that alone reached like millions of views, right? And then her GoFundMe, they actually were like, let's just increase it, because they've already maxed out their GoFundMe charity. So with that can change someone's life. So like that empathy can actually turn into a real life transaction to be like, I did something today. Like, we've probably gone from old school volunteering at the soup kitchen to online, like actually making a difference.
I love that. And it is real when people rally behind these random things that happen. Like, I think in the worst of times, that's when the internet can be really good, because you can have these people come together, support, and just have kind things to say, because the ability to reach and the different opportunities that are available now, like, it didn't exist 10 years ago. Now, like 20 years ago, all that time, it's like you can literally like do anything now. So I feel like, as much as like the gap to get in and do stuff is easier, it's like the good ones still win, I think, and think about things differently.
I agree, because random little thought, I was like, God, we used to send letters by pigeon, and now we're like, we can easily just like message and ping, and we're there, and we can create friendships that go from in real life to online communities. And I know that within the like macro micro creator world, you'll have someone post being like, girls, like, let's be there for each other. I'm on the road to 5K. If you are as well, let's start commenting on each other's stuff. And I'm like, that's amazing, because you're now, yes, you'll get some people that comment here and there, but then you'll get like people coming back and commenting, and it's a cute little pen pal situation where you're like, I see you, I'm there for you, and it's tit for tat.
Oh, that's so good. It's like, I remember back in the day, maybe 10 years ago, Instagram have all these big accounts that we were talking to from a brand point of view. A lot of them had engagement pods where there would be groups of people who help rise up together. And I think that it's the same as that type of shit. It's like, whenever someone posts, you get around it, you're supporting them. And I just feel like that's what's needed, especially at the start of people's journeys and things like that. Is like, you need that kind of like person there helping you rub the sticks together to make something happen.
Absolutely. And it's one of those things where, when you see a comment and it goes, we made the right person famous. Like, I think that end goal is like, they've worked hard to get where they are, whether it's interviewing, journalism, funny skits, comedy, just like POV style stuff or fashion. To get a comment like that, I think is just like, it's crazy, because the word famous now, like, people still to this day will say that Kim Kardashian isn't a celebrity. They'd be like, no, she's a reality TV star. And it's like, yes, but at the end of the day, they are. The definition of famous and celebrity has evolved because of social media.
That and the insight, and people can care more about things because they can see deeper access, and there's already a product or a thing that they're known for, and then there's this other thing where they can get more behind the scenes and follow along on the journey, because I feel like people just want to be a part of things from the start. You know, I think there's a real thing where people it's like bands and artists and things. You're like, oh, I caught onto them early. I went to their gig when they played there and there was 50 people or whatever. That's like a flex to people.
Yes. But you know what? It's a flex, but it's also in some way, I've seen people be like, oh no, gatekeep. She's
Yeah, well, I never wanted anyone else to listen to my favorite band, but I love them. Yeah.
right. It's like a weird juxtaposition where you're like, God, like, grr, that's my thing. I listened to them like Zara Larson. I listened 10 years ago, but everyone loves it, right? But then it's also like they literally like they work to get where they should be. So we should be like, you know what? Good on them. Like, grr, but good on you. I think what I've noticed as well, and we were chatting about this the other day, is that when you're an influencer, right, it gets to a point where that fame and that consistency can become fatigued, right? So it's like, well, if you can't be an influencer forever, like you do need an income in this world, right? So like, how do you do that? Product, literally, like you just said, right? So for example, Sofa Jofa, she's got All for Mimi. You've got Remy by Riley. You've got so many like Alex Earl with her soda can. God, what's that called? She's like an investor for it, right? So I think it just evolves where it's like they become an influencer just because they have a niche or like a funny personality, and then they unnaturally, I'd say, turn into an entrepreneur and a founder and a CEO, and then they have to pick up these new roles and responsibilities that they probably don't even knew that they had or they had to work on. So I do think social is like the world is your oyster and take it as you wish.
I think we're going to see a lot more collaborations, like we're already seeing it, where it's just like, yeah, it's the opportunity to diversify your audience and show value in more ways and show more of yourself as well. Like the opportunities are there. It's just a crazy thing to think about where social will be in like 5 years, you know, like what's going to dominate in like 5 years time.
And you know what's funny? I always thought Facebook would be a thing. I was like, it's going to be a thing forever. The only reason why I go on it now is because of Facebook Marketplace, right? I have an addiction, but I know, like, I still use Messenger because it's a direct messaging platform. You will use that because you need to connect with people, right? You're not going to send a mail. So I think it could even change next year. TikTok came, right? And I remember everyone was like, oh, because it used to be Musically, right? Everyone's like, yeah, like whatever, like, and even Vine, they're like, okay. But if you got big on Vine, like Liza Koshy and old mate, whatever his name is, then as soon as you have the audience, you can be like, guys, like follow me on Instagram, because at this point, Instagram has become one of the most prominent platforms since it was established. But I do think things come and go, and you never know if it's going to do well. Like, do you remember it came out last, Blue Sky? It's like I didn't hop on that. And like, I feel like there's a specific niche of like, well, you've got to see like what people will actually want to physically download an app, physically start a whole profile again, and then physically start engaging. Like, it's just, I don't know, just very different. It's a very different world, and we don't know what's to come either.
Well, I remember when Clubhouse came out, and that was a thing for like 6 months where I went berserk and I was like, this is going to be the thing. I like spent some time, and you could really see the types of people who were going on early to build their audience or, you know, siphon from one platform to the other. And it was like, all right, these are kind of the hustlers that are doing things. These are the people who want to like they're the types of people who you want to collaborate with, because it shows that they've got ambition and drive in a sense. So you can really get a lot of intel through things like that too.
Yeah. Did you, who did you think that was the most like dominant demographic on there?
I don't know, to be honest. I think people who like podcasts, you know, like I remember when I think it was Elon or Joe Rogan went live, and there was like all these different rooms, and it went pretty fucking crazy. But I feel like there was a lot of males on there, I felt like, and but the opportunities were there, because with a new platform, I remember getting pinged into a chat with the founder of Airwallex and Linktree, and it's just like there's 4 of us on a fucking thing. It was random. So I think like those things, like when you take risks with building off new platforms and stuff, like even if it doesn't last too long, you might have 1 or 2 combos that can change something up.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because like you just never know, like that little percentile that will make the effort to go into that like Clubhouse room. It's like, well, look at you now. Like that's a connection that you can make, and it doesn't need to be traditional, like, climbing the ladder within the same company you've been at for 40 years and looking up. Like it's all horizontal now, and like different mediums. You can literally, yeah, diversify that way.
And last one before I leave you, what about like online versus offline? Like I know when I see stuff a lot in my feeds, like obviously because I live in there, but then if I'm nipping down the shops and I see like a brand that I've been seeing on or a person, I'm just like I automatically feel like it's bigger than maybe necessarily what it is, to be honest, and like perception's reality a bit like, all right, this feels bigger than just what I'm seeing on social, you know?
Yeah, you know what's so funny? So I've got two examples. EasyJet, no, sorry, Ryanair. Really funny. I love them. Like I literally like their community management is insane. It's so funny, right? And I remember when I first moved to England, I was like, oh my God, I'm going on the plane. Oh my God, I see this. Like it's weird because it's like there's like real like people behind this brand, and like there's actual functions that happen. They're not just funny haha being like, mean or whatever online. And I think it does like hit me where I'm like, God, like social media is insane. Like obviously it's an evolution of traditional marketing, and we've got a whole new generation that look to social media to be converted to a customer. But because I'm already a customer of them, like without even thinking, I'm going to do EasyJet because they're funny. I do it because Ryanair. I do it because they have cheap flights. And then there was another one called Innocent Drinks. I'm not too sure if they're based in Australia, but they were really funny on TikTok. And I remember I was in a Tesco and I saw it and I go, I love their marketing. And I tried it because I was like, I just want to see what the hype is about. Is their juice as good as their community management? So yeah, I think there's a lot that you can tell from social media. And then it's sort of like a weird cycle where you're like, okay, I like them here, and then I also like them there. So then you'll just see how that goes.
And the ultimate dream is when the product backs up the hype. Hey, when it's like, this is good shit, I'm gonna fucking tell everyone type of thing.
Yeah. Because there have been things that I've like tried or done, and I'm like, oh, they marketed it really well, and I was a victim of consumerism. But like, maybe there needs to be a bit of feedback. But yeah, it's just a crazy world that we live in.
Larissa, honestly, this has been one of my favorite chats I've had on the podcast so far. A lot of good tips and insights, and I reckon we're going to have to get you back on end of year and see how everything's going. With you.
Amazing. Thank you so much for having me. I loved it. This just made my Friday a Friday. I loved it.
Thanks for doing it on a Friday too. Cheers.
Cheers. See ya.